making money, reggae glow. Coffee's brewing, I don't blink. Numbers flash before I think. Cash it in before they sink. Stocks and bonds, the rhythm swings. Lost and found, this life it brings. Trading day and night it sings. Day trading, lifestyle, feel it flow. Up and down, we ride the show. Buy and sell, just watch it go. Making money, reggae glow. Stocks are moving up and down. In this market, I'm renowned. Never leave this trading town. Day trading, lifestyle, feel it flow. Up and down, we ride the show. Buy and sell, just watch it go. Making money, reggae glow.
Good day, folks. Good day, Tom. Nice to see you, mate. We start in 15 minutes. I'm just getting everything set up in my panicky state of prep of technology, which can go wrong so easily.
Check the charts, game of gas while it's skated. Bitcoin flip like a pancake, no hesitating. Buy low, sell high, nights dedicated. Crypto grind, dollar signs bright like Vegas stated. Damn market bull run, traders try to keep it calm. Pumped on, don't stress like a season-long prom. Hollow strong, diamond hands withstand the storm. Day trade craze up all night until the night's warm. Crypto chains, clicks on screen, stacks elevated. Wallet is no bank, trans coins liberated.
Good day, Barbara. I saw that. Yeah, that's quite a Camilla. Quite a nice comparison, I suppose. Good morning. I'm glad you deleted that because this becomes quite political, even in the private trading groups that we're involved in. So 200 EMA, Tom, I'm not sure. We'll have a look shortly. I'm not going to go into analyses, but please put your questions and your comments up in the chat right now. We'll go forward with that when the stream starts. And that is in 10 minutes time. I've got a new Apple iPad next to me, so I can see all your comments in the chat whilst we're chatting and whilst we're going through this. So please put them up in the window. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd love you to subscribe now, give it a thumbs up, and it helps the channel grow. And I'd like to grow this community stronger and better, and your subscription will really help. Let's have a look at the charts whilst we're fiddling around. Tom may as well, and have a look at the 200 EMA. I've only got the SMA, and what chart are you talking about, Tom? The day chart or the hourly chart or the 4-hour chart? On the day chart, it's at 2.4. That's the 200 SMA. And on the 4-hour chart, it's at 2.5. On the spot price on the 4-hour chart. On the futures day chart, it's at 2.4. And on the futures, it'll be pretty similar to the EMA at the current time. Let's see if we can pull this up. Yeah, so that's at 2.57 on the futures, Tom. There's the 200 EMA, the purple line at the top. So we've got the 20 down at the bottom, the green one. The 50 is the red one. The black one is the 100, and the purple one's the 200 SMA, not EMA. Good day, Kwan. You want to look at gold? All right, we'll cover gold when we get there. Gold's finding a bottom here at the 100 period moving average on the 4-hour chart and the 20 period moving average on the day chart. We're long on gold now from yesterday, right at the bottom. So we took a long trade at 23.85, I think it was. And we're now at 24.07. So that's moving up. But we'll discuss that in some more detail. You can see on the 4-hour chart how we held above the 100 period moving average on gold. So that's the 100 SMA, not the EMA. Okay, howdy, folks. Good day, Zubair Ahmedi, or just Ahmed with an exclamation mark. Welcome to the live stream and thanks for subscribing. I really appreciate it. And it's great to have you here. Okay, folks, welcome to the live stream. It's 2 o'clock my time, 8 a.m. New York, and welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. We've covered natural gas this morning in quite a detailed video, and we've covered it in most of the live streams over this last sort of week or so. I'm going to cover it again now, but I don't want to go into too much detail. But before we do that, let's have a look at the scroll. Let's scroll across the browser here a wee bit. See what news is coming out later on today. We've had a little bit already from, not a lot today actually, it's Tuesday the 23rd of June. We saw EU industrial production down a bit in Lithuania. I don't think that's going to have a big impact on the market overall. And consumer confidence in, where is this? Slovenia was down a bit. And not much else from the European zone. But coming up later on today is a couple of interesting things. First of all, consumer confidence in the euro, that's in the European zone, that's a little bit later on, 2 hours time. And existing home sales, that's going to be super interesting because we saw a big downtick in new home sales. We've got the Richmond Fed manufacturing, sort of low impact. Existing home sales, it's going to be a big number, I think. Expected to actually pick up, so we'll see how that goes. And then also money supply. This is a new chart, so we don't have much history on this, but where is that? Money supply for June. That's at 20.96 trillion. That's going to be interesting to see as well. I don't have a proper chart on that, so we can't analyze that at the moment. That's the amount of liquidity around in the world that's available. And then crude oil stock change is actually meant to tick up a wee bit, which will be the first time in quite a long time. We're expected to actually increase by 0.7 million barrels. Now, that's pretty good news for our short oil trade. We're short on Brent crude, not on, we're short on WTI, not Brent crude. But this should be a little bit of a pump for the downside on oil. Maybe not, maybe that's already built in, I don't know. But anyway, that's all of that. Going across to, we'll come to that shortly, going across to Twitter. If you're not following me on X, I put all of these charts on natural gas up during the last few days, and we followed this trade from the bottom up to where we are currently. I was about to say the top, but I don't think it's the top. So that's the way it is. So if you're not following me on X, you can just go across to X and press the follow and I think notify. It's a little bell as well, similar to YouTube. Right. Final thing I want to do before we go into the charts is my web page has this box on it, an opt-in box for your name and email address. And if you put your name and email address in there and subscribe, I'm launching a trading course somewhere in the beginning of September, maybe the first, maybe the second, maybe just the first week. I'm not 100% sure yet. We're scrambling to get everything together, but we want to do it properly. So if you put your name into this box on my website, it's at ArcisFX.com, you will be first on the list. There will be a limited number of releases for this training course because it'll be also not only video and other supplementary material, but it will also be interactive. And so there will be live sessions in the training course, quite a lot of them, in addition to the set and pre-recorded, pre-taped material. And that's why we're going to have to limit the numbers to this because we just can't handle hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people. But if you put your name in here, you will be guaranteed to get on the list to get first dibs on the training course. Okay, that's all I want to say about that. And it's best if you subscribe and make sure you get all the notifications on my media so you don't miss out. Right, I think that's all I've got to say on all of that. So we can go across to the charts now. And here we go. So here's natural gas. Now, actually, before we do that, I'm going to switch back to the browser and just show you this chart on X if you have not seen it yet. And with a bit of luck, this will show up in your window. Seems to be doing just that. So this is where we are. We've had these lower highs, subsequent lower highs, until we got to this level here after having taken out this crucial level just around about $2.10. We took that level out, dipped down, everyone got short, a lot of people went short. There was a lot of short FOMO, if that's a real thing, I suppose. And then unfortunately, those people that went short probably got trapped, and now we've got a bit of a short squeeze going on, and this is what I think is going to happen next. Now, what I said was now we need a higher low. So we've made lower highs all the way down, and now we need a higher low, higher than that low at the bottom there. And this would be a great place to find that low at around about 2.15-ish to 2.1, somewhere in that zone there. And then from there, a bounce further up. So that's the idea on natural gas. Don't be concerned about these pullbacks for now. I expect a pullback down to that level, about 2.15, 11 to 15, somewhere around there. Right, having said that, let's look at the actual charts, the real charts, and not just at Twitter or X. So here we are. Now, if you can sort of translate what you saw on that X tweet to where we are here, I'll try and draw this for you using my very dodgy mouse setup. We're almost there actually already. It's this red block that we're looking at. So something like that. And I'm aiming for the top of this channel and the 200 period moving average, which is this purple line up here. So I expect this zone here at about 2.15-ish, basically this red zone, to hold up this move down and for us to resume. Notice beneath us, we've got the 50 period and the 20 period moving averages in confluence and curling up underneath the price as it stands at the moment. So those will both act as support, as will this red horizontal line or block or zone. Call it what you want. Order block, demand zone, supply zone, whatever you want to call it, you can call it that. Basically, it's a support level, and that I think we'll find support here on natural gas. We've dipped perfectly into that level right now, and in the next number of 4-hour candles, I'd be expecting to see a reversal forming here, and then eventually a breakup through that trend line. If you've got any questions on that, please put that up in the chat box. This is natural gas on the day chart at Black Bull, at my broker at Black Bull, but it's the Henry Hub futures price. And you can see we've got a very similar thing on this 4-hour chart. There's our long positions in green. There's the 20 and there's the 50 period moving averages curling up underneath this zone here. Notice that this green level here, where this arrow where we got into the trade is at 2.13. Now, what is that level? Let's go back and scroll across this chart. to see what that is. And that is the 61.8% Fibonacci of the move from the bottom all the way up to the top. So we're at and about a key Fibonacci level, but also we've got support, as we saw in the 4-hour chart. We've also got these two moving averages curling up underneath on this 4-hour chart on the futures rather than the spot price. So they're both saying the same thing, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now, Brent crude we talked about, and WTI, when we looked at those economic figures coming out, seeing that we could see an increase in stocks in Brent crude and WTI, whichever one you're looking at. We're looking at WTI. Brent crude is mainly traded in Europe and so on, and well, it's traded all over the world, but this is the American West Texan or Texas intermediary price, and this should carry on moving down. We're short from these two red arrows at the top here, and this is the path that I expect to carry on, for the price to carry on and follow all the way down to the bottom of this new channel that we've now formed. I drew this channel in before this was even a channel, and we had two touches at the top and one at the bottom. Now we've got three at the top, but we've still only got one at the bottom. I'd like to see us touch the bottom of the channel and then decide what to do. That would take us down to about $60 and perhaps below there. My overall target is actually lower than $60. It's into the 50s and 40s and potentially even into the 30s. But let's not get ahead of ourselves on that. So that's WTI. Brent crude following suit. Brent crude looks a lot more bearish than WTI because we're below all of the moving averages already, whereas on WTI we've still got the 200 beneath us supporting this price movement down. On UEC and URA we're still long, and I'm still considering adding new long positions to these if they drop down a little bit lower. I continue to think that uranium products and instruments will gain in strength over the weeks and months and even years to come. Now, here's VIX and the South African Rand pairs. Those are just ticking up a little bit, but still the dollar South African Rand still under the 200 MA and the 100 MA, but above the 20 and the 50, whereas the pound Rand has ticked up above all the moving averages. I'm short on both of those until proven otherwise, unless we make new highs on these instruments. There's the tops, as you can see. Unless we make new highs on the pound against the South African Rand and the dollar against the South African Rand, there's the top on the pound. Unless we make new highs, my prognosis, my thesis, my hypothesis remains short on both the Rand against the dollar, or dollar against the Rand rather, and dollar against the Rand against the pound, or pound against the Rand. It's a little confusing because these are back to front, much like Swiss franc against the US dollar, as opposed to dollar against Swiss franc, like most of the other currencies are denominated. We're also long on the VIX, and let's see how we go, because we're short on stocks, long on the VIX. Holding up okay, we're above all the moving averages, and we're in some decent profit on this one actually, and hoping that we'll hold here and move up to 20. I'll take profit in the 20s. Right, going across to gold. Someone's just asked about gold, looking a bit precarious yesterday, but finding support now. We went long yesterday right at the bottom on gold. I think it was one of these spikes down. I think it was this one actually. This one second, right next to this big bearish candle. And we bounced off there, formed a hammer reversal, and we got long there, and we're still long. We've got some traffic above us. We've got this trend line. We've got the moving averages, but we've got the 200 and the 100 beneath us. That's on the 4-hour chart on Black Bull. Now, if we have a look at the day chart on the Black Bull broker, the spot price on gold, we're now beneath this rising trend line, which is parallel to this much longer term one, not quite parallel, but almost. And now we're retesting the underside of it. At first glance, from the trend line itself, it's bearish. We've got a rejection off this high. We've got a triple top, 1, 2, 3. We talked about this extensively in the last live stream, so I'm not going to cover it in too much detail, but I will link the last live stream to the end of this one, or you can just go and find it on my channel. But so considering that trend line, it's bearish, but we're above all of the moving averages, and my overall idea on gold remains bullish, notwithstanding the fact that we could have a deeper pullback. I think we were lucky to get in right there off that 100-period moving average because it didn't look strong, but luckily it has bounced up and we remain long on that. Same with Bitcoin, really. We took some profit off this morning. We took 30% off our Bitcoin longs And question is, are we going to hold this red line? It's as simple as that. If we don't, we'll have to move back down and correct more steeply, perhaps down to some of these levels down here, maybe even back close to 60,000 or below. I don't think that's the most likely scenario. We're still long, but we don't have a full-size position anymore. And I'm looking for this to hold here and move up. If we don't, I'll be adding the pieces that I took off at this level back on at a lower and cheaper price. So I'm not done with Bitcoin longs, but I'm expecting that we could have some weakness in the very near term before the next bounce. My target for Bitcoin is around about 100,000 and more if we get going and don't begin to fail here. If we do fail here, and the things that are driving this are moving away from fiat currencies into gold and Bitcoin, but also we're going to see interest rates coming down in the US pretty soon. This is priced in the one I'm trading anyway, in US dollars. So if the interest rates come down in the US, Bitcoin should receive a bit of a boost. The same thing goes for stocks, although stocks normally come down once interest rates cut because of economic uncertainty. And the reason for the cuts is normally because there's a problem in the economy. Whether that'll have the same impact on Bitcoin or not, I'm not 100% sure. But I think Bitcoin's got a better chance than the fiat currency-based stock market, which is now overbought, overblown, and out of control. We're seeing some correction starting to come in on some of the tech stocks and some of the chip stocks, particularly NVIDIA. Now, going across to stocks while we're talking about it, we're short on NASDAQ from the top. We are, well, I'm not too sure about S&P actually. We do have a position on this, it's very small, but it's not my main concern. I'm really more interested in the NASDAQ and some of these tech stocks like NVIDIA and Tesla and Apple. My direction on NVIDIA is eventually long, but for the moment, I think we could have a fairly significant correction all the way down towards 100 and perhaps even below into the 95 region, this previous all-time high swing high, before we got all these gaps forming and this exuberant blowout move that's creating all sorts of hype and FOMO. We broke out through that previous all-time high and gapped up once, gapped up twice, gapped up 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. And now we're going to have to undo some of that, I think, and get this market into a bit of stasis, a bit of a breathing space, and a bit of a pullback. I think we could get down to that red line, as I said, but then we'll be looking to buy NVIDIA. Same with Apple. I'll be looking for a move down. We still didn't get into this short trade, despite the fact that we had an island reversal at the top here, despite the fact that I called it out days in advance. We just didn't get short on Apple. However, having said that, we're still above the 20-period moving average and holding there. And in pre-market, we're still holding there. So perhaps we'll get another chance later on. We are, however, short on Tesla. We've got earnings coming out after the market closes today. We'll have to be flat or square on Tesla. I'm probably just going to hedge my short position. We're short from around about 260, maybe slightly higher. Can't remember the precise number in that region. And we're now at 250 odd. So actually we're at 255 in pre-market. So we've moved up a little bit. So we're just barely in profit on this, if anything at all right now. And the most sensible thing to do ahead of earnings is to hedge, because once the market closes after hours, I am not able to trade at my broker. I don't have aftermarket trading. So I don't want to be trapped with a 30% rally on Tesla. I don't think that's going to happen. If anything, I think we might see a bit of a fall off and a pullback. Talking about stocks and indices, here's the German 30. We're still looking to try and get short on this. Perhaps today was a good opportunity, but I don't know where we're heading right now today on stock markets. I'm talking about in the very, very short term right now. Generally, I think we could have a bit of a 10 or a 15% pullback on the stock market indices, at least in general. But whether that's going to be today or not, I don't know. We're certainly heading towards that sort of prognosis or outcome, rather. Apple, I'm looking to, we talked about that, but let's talk from the long side. I'll be looking to buy Apple down into any of these regions down here on a clear reversal pattern on a daily chart. And that's that. Now, yen pairs and currencies in general, dollar index is just pushing up towards this 20-period, 200-period moving average, trying to break through there. And my general idea for the dollar index remains short, but I'm not committed to one direction or the other on the dollar at the moment. It's been a very messy sideways. Look at the dollar index. I mean, since January 2023, we've been going sideways across the page. So that's the whole of 2023 and half of 2024, 18 months essentially, just going across the page. If anything, just drifting up slightly, but I don't think that's going up. I think this is probably, in my estimation, probably more likely to go down than up, but I'm not committing to one way or the other on the dollar index, and therefore not on the euro. But because I have a short bias on the dollar and generally a long bias on the yen, the carry trade I think is beginning to unwind on the yen against the dollar and other currencies. We've seen that already. We've seen the dollar yen collapsing absolutely, and we've seen the euro yen doing the same thing. Last time that happened, we recovered and made a new high. This time, I don't think it's going to be the same scenario. There's a lot of talk about the inverse or reverse swing, not swing trade, carry trade, and that people are looking to get long on the yen. In other words, short on the dollar yen, short on the CAD yen, short on the euro yen, short on the Aussie yen, the Swiss yen, all the yen pairs, pound yen, all of them will follow suit if the yen gains strength. We've seen that already on the euro yen, and we've now broken down through this channel. We're short on this one too, but only at this channel break. We didn't get short from the top. We got short at this level. So we now have to wait to see how this moves. This very, very, very long-term channel with multiple touches at the top and at the bottom, now in the last two attempts to get to the top has actually failed. That rally to the top didn't make it. The last rally to the top didn't make it. Previous rallies to the top did make it. Well, some of them, not all of them, apart from that big spike in the middle there. But every time we've got to the bottom and we've touched it precisely every single time without fail, we've held and bounced off there, except for today. And we've now broken down through that channel. I expect to pull back to the top, or perhaps even slightly inside this channel. There's the 50-period moving average at about 170.8. If we just got back to the top of the channel, that's about 170.4 or 3, and then looking for a resumption of this move. If I can just draw this very quickly, something like this. Okay, forgive the mouse touchpad. That's the sort of thing. Allow for a move back up into this zone here, and then a move down. We're already short on this, so we may or may not be adding further short positions if this price consolidates underneath the trend line. We've got various levels of support beneath us that we have to be very careful of, starting here at about 167.5. Then we've got another one at 164. We've got the 100-period moving average at 167.5 as well. And we've also got the 200-period moving average at 163.90. That'll be at 164. So these two swing lows coincide with where these two moving averages will be if and when the price gets there, and will offer some support, perhaps for a bounce back up to the underside of that trend line for the resumption of the move down. So that's the kind of idea I've got on euro yen. And I think we've covered just about everything except for the softs and the grains. Now we're long on cotton, we're long on long on cotton, believe it or not, and long on corn. Cotton isn't looking great, but we have a tight stop loss on this and a very large target. There's our target right at the top here at on cotton at about 100, 102. We're currently at 69, and my stop loss is down beneath the bottom of this red zone here. So at 67. So we're long here where we are currently, stop loss at the bottom of this red zone, target right up here. I think it's about a 13-to-1 risk-reward ratio. It's not something I normally look at, risk-reward ratios, but when I get an opportunity to brag about it, I do so. Right, now here's corn. We went long right at the bottom. Here's the green arrow. Let's see if we can just bring that to the front, visual order, bring to the front. So we're long on corn and in profit on that. And my target on corn is all the way back at $4.60 and then much, much higher. Look how oversold we are. It's been a one-way track all the way down to where we are. Doesn't mean we can't go lower, but we are really just, super cheap. When commodities are cheap, it's the time to buy. When commodities are expensive, it's time to sell in general, assuming that you know where those highs and lows are likely to form. So that's why we've got corn and cotton on the go. Those are long. We have nothing on cocoa. We've spoken about this ad nauseum, really. That's the path I'm expecting on cocoa. You can have a look at yesterday's video for more info on that. Sugar, we're long on. We're now negative on sugar, and I'll probably cut that trade at some point. Soybeans, we have been long on soya, but we're not in a trade currently at the moment. We've got nothing on wheat. I continue to think that wheat has some weakness potentially left in it, that we could see a move down, a much sharper move down before a bounce up. But if corn gets a wiggle on, maybe wheat will follow suit. They do trade together sometimes, not all the time, but quite a lot of the time. And then orange juice, I'm looking for a move all the way back up to 470 odd. We're at 440 now. I'm not prepared to sell orange juice unless we get higher. And then coffee, I'm not in any coffee trades, but this is an interesting scenario. We've had this pattern before, descending triangle breakdown, and then a move down before bouncing off this long-term trend line. Here we have a descending triangle breakdown, and will we move back down to the shallower trend line? That could take us down into the 220s, 210s, 220s and 210s. We're currently at 242. I'm not interested in buying coffee unless we get down there, and I'm not interested in selling coffee unless we get much higher. So that's let's just wait and see on coffee, really. I honestly don't know which way that's going to go. I have no clue whatsoever. I've been trading, as I noted on X this morning. I've been trading for 23 years, and I have no clue what we're going to get from coffee. And I put this up here. Exactly the same chart that I've just had up live in front of you. There it is there. And I put that up on X. After 23 years of trading, I have no clue about how to trade this one. Short with a tight hedge or long with a tight stop, possibly. So I don't know. Yeah. So no trades on that for now. And let's go back to the charts. Yeah, and I think that's it, folks. So I'm going to go through some of the questions here and see what we can... Good day, WeVibe. Oh, you'd like to talk about the pound yen. LNG export approvals, current US admin limited. How does this affect natural gas prices? Barbara, yeah, I mean, you know, if exports, if Freeport gets going fully and exports are in full flow, it's good for natural gas. It's an increase in demand, which is not taken up onshore, but it's sold offshore, and it brings extra demand for natural gas. I don't think there are any other questions. So, folks, this session is now over. Don't want to waste your time. We've been going for half an hour, but I'm going to hang out here for a little bit. If you don't want to stay around for any longer, now's the time to go. Before you do that, though, please subscribe and give a thumbs up to the channel. If you want to hang around a little bit more and ask some further questions, no problem at all. I'll hang around for another 10-15 minutes if necessary, and we can just chat and hang out. Thanks for attending if you did attend, and I appreciate you being here as always. And remember, we've got a training course being launched at the first or second, I think, of September. And if you'd like to be part of that and get into... Let me just see where we are. If you'd like to get if you're interested in that training course, you should go across to my website. There's a link below in the chat and sign up at this newsletter, because when we release the course, launch the course in early September, it's going to be a limited number of copies because it's going to be a somewhat interactive course, and we won't have space for hundreds and thousands of people. And that's that. Okay, folks, let's go back to the charts, and if there are any other questions, Saeed, I've talked about natural gas already, so please rewind the video and check that out if you'd like to know what we've talked about on natural gas. And then we're going to talk about pound yen. Let's go to that right now. Before I forget, so here's the euro yen chart. Keep that in mind. We're short on that, waiting for a bounce back up to the underside of this channel, this very, very long channel, before selling maybe some more and waiting for a move down. We've got a couple of order blocks, support levels beneath us. We've got to get through those. We're at the bottom of the first one. Now let's go to pound yen, and I'll get this at Black Bull. GJ, as people call it. I don't. I dislike nicknames, roughly, more or less. Okay, here's pound yen now. A massive move down. We moved from 208 to 201, so 700 pips. Divide 700 by 2 to make it 350 pips if this was percentage based. These pips do not represent a pip does not represent 0.01% when we're talking about pound yen, because we're at 200 yen to the pound. So this is roughly half. So it's a but nevertheless, 350 pip in real terms move from the top down to where we are currently, and we're bouncing off this first support zone. This is a massive support zone. that we're in right now. And I think that this has every chance of actually being quite stubborn. And I'm going to draw a block in here for you, something like this. And it really is quite a massive, broad area. And I think this has really got a chance of being quite a strong support level. So give it, why have I just got rid of that? What happened? That is so annoying. I was pretty sure. Yeah. So massive support level that we've just entered in now, but we've also entered into the very powerful part of the support level, this darker green line here, and that's at these previous lows where we had a massive move up. Look at those big spikes off this level. So a lot of action, a lot of volume in there. That's that previous high. So a big and very important area. Let's go across to where we are. You can see we're making a spike low. If this candle closes the way it is at the moment, this will actually be a piercing pattern reversal candle. This is a 4-hour chart. We'll go to the day chart shortly. Expect to move at the very worst or the very highest of this potential bounce right back into this zone here at about 205, 206, back into that order block. Notice that we've got the 100-period moving average and the 50 above, around about that level. But we've also got the 200 and the 20 in confluence at 203 yen to the pound. We're currently at 201.80. I would allow for a move back up to 203 at the very least, perhaps even higher than that, maybe 204.20. These are the numbers that I'm looking at, and you can write them down if you want to. So 203, maybe I'll just put a blob in there for you. And then when you re-look at this video, you can, so there's the first one, 203. Anywhere in that blob. Then we've got 204.20, anywhere in that blob. Noticing as well that this coincides with a previous support and resistance. Let's use a block rather, a rectangle. These are never precise, by the way. When you draw these levels, that's why I use a rectangle and not a line most of the time, because sometimes it's a zone or it's an area. And you can see we've got an area between these lows and those lows, these highs and those bodies of those candles. So it's a zone. It's not a perfect level. The top of the zone's at 204.20. The bottom of the zone at 203.80. Actually, my two favorite numbers, the 80s and the 20s, as you'll know. So 203.80, 204.20, that's a very good level. And then if I have to actually draw another one in here, I don't have to, but if I were to, it would be somewhere in this zone here. And I guess we could move these along a little bit so that they look more sensible. So this is the sort of thing I'd be looking for on pound yen. I wouldn't be buying right here because there's a chance it could suddenly collapse, but I'm looking for this sort of thing. No. Oh, hang on, maybe that'll work. Something like that, maybe up to there, maybe up to here, and then back down again to make a new low, something like that. Now the top of this area where we get, as the height that we get to on this move up, if we do get a move up, is indistinguishable, not indistinguishable, that's the wrong word, is indeterminable, because it could be there if we get a very shallow bounce and we move down 203, or it could be here in this block 203.80 to 204.20, or it could be right up here at 205 to 206, 205.50 to 206 in that zone there. So I don't know. I'm going to just leave it like that for the moment, and let's assume that we get more of a vigorous bounce, although I think that 200 and the 20 right above us on this 4-hour will provide fairly good resistance. Now, let's have a look on the day chart because we need to get a bigger angle on this, and pretty bearish, but lots of spike lows. Look at all these spikes. So we're trying to move down, but it's spiky, it's not clean. And we've got right into this big block here that I just drew in. So, and we're also at the 50-day moving average. So I think that's my idea. Generally, I wouldn't be buying here or selling here. If you are already short, then I would take some profit or hedge or do something like that. This is not trading advice. This is what I would do. and wait for a bounce up into some of these areas, start to take off some of those hedges if you're hedging with longs, take profit on those longs, and then add to the short side. That's my overall idea and general perspective on that currency pair. Generally, though, short on the yen pairs is my opinion. All right. Okay, we're talking about natural gas. I don't have anything else to add to that. I think you're talking about natural gas, vibe. The boring channel, welcome, mate. You might want to check out this item below. Helpful with live streaming. Loop Deck Live Custom Console. Thank you very much, boring channel. I'll check that out for sure. This system works pretty well, but it's not the best. All right. WeVibe, your question is, do you think there'll be a lower low or some sideways action? Again, are you talking about natural gas or I suppose natural gas? It's looking lekker. South African, I'm assuming, WeVibe. Well, let's have a look. I've told you what I think. Basically, this is what I think is the most likely scenario on natural gas. So we're at that zone now where I think we might bounce, but we don't have any confirmation on that on this 4-hour candle. And if we look at the shorter term charts, this is the hour chart moving down quite sharply, not incredibly dramatically, but moving down nevertheless. But we've got no bounce whatsoever, and we're right at the bottom of this move. We've got a shaven candle on the 4-hour and on the 1 hour and on the 15-minute. You can actually see on the very short, I don't trade off short-term charts, but you can see on the 15-minute chart that we actually had a bit of a bounce off that precise level that we've just drawn out in the previous chart. So we tried to bounce there. We actually formed, this is a 15-minute chart, so bears very little weight of evidence in my opinion. But I've traded off 5-minute charts. I've scalped. I'm familiar with it. It's something I've done many times over the past. So I know how these short-term charts work. It's just that I prefer not to use them when I'm trading these days. But there's a 1 down, 1 up on the 15-minute. And if you were observing this as a short-term trader, which I don't think is a good idea in natural gas anyway, you would consider that to potentially be a reversal pattern on the 15-minute chart. But it's a 15-minute chart. When you look at the hour chart and the day chart, there's no such thing. There's the 4-hour and the day chart. But I trade off the 4-hour charts, and I'm looking for a reversal candle to form here. And right now we've got nothing. My 4-hour candles roll over. It's now 12, 4 hours at 16. So another hour and a half before this candle completes as of this moment that we're talking at right now. So let's see how this candle finishes in an hour and a half. And as is my want, I will probably put something up on X as well if I spot something interesting on that at that time during that event, if it happens. So keep an eye out on X if you are interested in my thoughts in an hour and a half on this natural gas trade. Elgato is another brand for programmable console. Actually, the boring channel, this microphone, I'm not sure if you can see it. This is an Elgato microphone. It's called Elgato Wave. It's a very good, apparently, I don't know much about mics and sound, but apparently it's a very good high-end microphone, and that's the brand, Elgato. So I didn't know they did software. I'm going to have a look at that right now. I appreciate your inputs on that. I'm still looking for the most optimal setup. So right now I've got an iPad with the live stream showing where I can see the questions and so on. And I've got the screens here, and I've got another screen over there in the background, which I glance at every now and then. But the software prohibits me from actually being as flexible as I want, because it's actually an app, and it's not the best app. So yeah, I'll have a look at those. Thank you very much, the boring channel. I appreciate that. So Lupe Deck and Elgato are two of the software things. WeVibe says, my friend is South African. Okay, so you know the lingo, lekker. Lekker it's Lekker in South African lingo. It means nice, cool, good, great, lekker. Like a cold beer or a good game of rugby by the Springboks. NKKZY, will I be talking about strategy and trading styles sometime soon? Yes, I will be. So in this training course that I'm going to be launching in September, early September, I'm going to be covering a lot of stuff which we go through on all of these charts and the stuff that I use myself to trade these markets and have been doing for 23 years. So I'll be covering really everything as much as I could possibly fit in, not only through the videos and the supplementary material, but also through live sessions associated with those training courses. That's the best way to do it. It's impossible to do it. I've tried in previous live streams and videos to try to make the time to describe everything as you've just suggested, but it's not, it really isn't possible. There just isn't time. So there's going to be a very, very comprehensive and beautiful, complete trading course with everything that I've learned over 23 years of trading. And I think it's going to be fantastic. So, and if you remember of my private trading group, there are going to be discount options and webinar options and so on. But also there'll be interactive training and trading specifically focused on some of those things that you've just asked about. So, you're having a braai. Are you in England? It's the sort of place that, I mean, you might be having us, people in England braai or barbecue is the English term for it, or American or British term for it, at strange times of day and night. Yeah, thanks, Boring Channel. I really appreciate that. I'm going to look into that today. And I thank you very much for that. That's something that I've been looking for. And it's difficult to find out from people. I do all of this stuff myself, and it's really difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult to find what other people are using, what the best solutions are, what's the cheapest cost-wise. I mean, the other one that I was using, this is Streamlabs. The other one was something else labs, or I can't remember now. That was about $60 a month. And it was pretty limited in what it could do. This one's a little bit cheaper, and it's more flexible, but it's more clunky. And with apps, they sort of add things on as time goes on, and the app gets clunkier and clunkier. Some apps get better, some get worse. And I think this one may have just got a little bit worse. I don't know. Okay, folks, I'm still here. So if you'd like to ask any further questions, put them up in the chat box about anything that you want to know. Where's Joe Biden, for example, or, I think we'll keep politics out. Right, while we're here, I'm just going to go through the charts with you again. Let's have a look at this pound yen. Bouncing, yeah, so it is bouncing a little bit. I'm actually going to go back to the euro yen chart because that's what we're busy trading. And over at Black Bull. Yeah, so I don't know if these are going to bounce back up or not. I really don't know. I think if you're short on the pound yen, it'd be a good idea to at least hedge a portion of it or some of it, or take profit and wait for the bounce. However, if you're, and that's probably if you've got a decent profit from somewhere near the top. If you're just getting into this trade, like I am on euro yen, we got in a long time ago, but we're short basically at that trend line on euro yen. So you might be in a similar situation to me, short at the trend line. On the pound yen, you might be short just a little bit above where we are at the moment on pound yen or GJ. So if you are in that situation like I am, it's basically hold this short no matter what happens, because I don't have a full size position on it. And I think we could even get back up to the 20-period moving average on the euro yen. Same on the pound yen. That could take us up to 172.5. We're currently at 169.5. So that's 300 pips above us. Divide that by 2 because we're trading the yen pairs. It's still 150 pips or 1.5%. So it's difficult. I don't know your situation or what trade position you're in. But I'm in a similar position on euro yen, I think, to what you might be on pound yen. And it's just a matter of hold and add some more if we get a little bit of a bounce. But I think these are both going down, euro yen, pound yen, and you can add Swiss, CAD, Aussie, whatever other currencies you're busy trading against the yen. And the Swiss yen might actually be one of the best ones around. I'm not in that currently. Right, just having a look at stocks again, just sort of faffing about, no real movement. A little bit down now on Nvidia after being a little up. And also on Tesla, a little bit down after being up. And Apple, more or less where we were, so that hasn't moved. Bitcoin moving down. Now, that's, as I said, there's a danger of this pulling back quite significantly, down closer to 60 than move up to 70. So it looks more like we're going to get a move towards 60 than a move towards 70 right this minute. Hence, we've taken some we've taken some profit on the long trade that we've been in all the way down from 59 odd thousand. We started getting into Bitcoin longs around 20-something thousand, 29,000, I think it was, some time ago. And we've been long ever since. I have not been shorting Bitcoin. I think we may have traded it short on one occasion, maybe two occasions. I don't want to make up nonsense and tell lies here, but I think we have actually sold Bitcoin twice in the last year or 6-8 months, something like that. But most of the time we've been long, and we first started in the 20s, and then we started buying again in the 50s, and now we're in the high 60s, but we are in a danger zone of pulling back. This doesn't look strong to me. And after we made a new high, we made a surge back up to that high, made this double top yesterday. That's when and then it pulled back down, and we got out early this morning, took some profit on those longs. Let's see what happens. And then NATGAS, well, there we go, bouncing off that exact level that we talked about earlier, but not convincingly at all. We're going to wait for an hour and a half for the rollover. It's now an hour and 15 minutes until the next rollover. But if you look at the 15-minute chart on this, you can see this is what we were talking about, the one down, one up. I don't trade off these 15-minute charts. I want to remind you of that. But there's the one down, one up. And there's the current candle, just trying to clear out that bottom a little bit, half a, I don't know, 0.1 penny below there, bouncing back up again and messing around in this choppy zone. There's obviously some buying interest here because we've seen quite a big move on this very small, short-term 15-minute chart. But, my decision will be made in an hour and 15 minutes time on the 4-hour rollover and not until then. Look at Brent Crude moving down, WTI moving down. Beautiful. We're short on both of those, as you know, from those two levels on WTI. So that's going really well. VIX, etc. I'm just going through all of these charts again. Not much movement. And then the softs and the grains. Corn looking good, actually, I must say. Cotton not so good. And if corn does get a wiggle on here, maybe, just maybe, it'll drag wheat up with it too. Yeah, thanks, Boring Channel. I haven't actually done a YouTube search on the streaming software and hardware and so on that people are using. I should have done that. You're quite right. I think I'm actually particularly excited about the Elgato because I've used this mic for about a year now, and it's really, really good. It's a solid piece of equipment. It looks pretty light and flimsy, but it's not. It's super solid and super heavy and has a really good, crisp, clear sound. So if their software is as good as their hardware, they're probably really good. So N1KZY, I hope that answered your question regarding trading strategies and styles. And look out for that course coming up very, very soon at the beginning of September. There'll be a lot more details coming up by email, on YouTube, on X, and wherever else I might be positioned in the social media world. So keep an eye out for my emails and sign-up forms, and also a survey. I'm putting out a survey tomorrow to find out from you guys what it is that you want to learn about the most. So keep an eye out for that in your email inbox on X, and I'll also post the links up here in YouTube. And hopefully that'll solve a lot of the problems, really, with people not really understanding what we're talking about when we cover some of these things in these live streams and in the videos. Where will gold trade? the gold range trading this year. Where will the range of gold be this year? I don't think that's a fair question, but I'll try and answer. I have no clue. But, you know, we're in an uptrend. Some people think we're going to $4,000. I think that's a bit optimistic. We may get there eventually, but I think we're in an uptrend. We've got a triple top here. We've got a very, very long-term triple top here. This one at around about $2,000. And I would say that's the bottom for the year, for sure. If we get below 2,000, I'd be very surprised. And then the top, actually what I'm going to do is just copy this range from the bottom to the top. We've got a breakout and we want to see how big that next range might be. That's from 1.6 to 2,000. That's about a $400 range, maybe 500. So if we do start to form a new range here, maybe we can get up into about 2.5. So in other words, I'm going to take this block. Let's just do it like this. So let's take this range that we've just come out of, this very large long-term range. Okay, that was the range. We've now broken out into a new range. The range is now from 2,000 up to something. The previous range was from 1.6 to 2,000, call it 2.1 actually. So it's a 500 pip range. Now, if I do this and just clone this, let's see, clone, and drag it up into this new range, that's the top. And let's change this to a different color. There we go. So my range for 2024 is 2,530 down to 2,000. There you go. It's the best answer I can give, and it's probably totally made up and pulled right out of my you-know-what, but that's what I think it is. So 2,500 and something is the top, and 2,000 is the bottom, in my opinion. And unless that changes, actually, this is the way I trade generally, unless that becomes negated by a move up through the top or a move down through the bottom, in other words, above 2,500 and whatever it was, or below 2,000 and a close on a daily, probably a weekly basis, above or below those levels, until or unless that happens, I'm going to stay with that prognosis. So long until we get to 2530 or 2520, because there's a 20, a 2, 2520, long until then, and then short back into the range. How far we'll get down, I don't know, but the bottom of the range is $2,000. Until that changes, and this is until that prognosis has altered, or until something convinces me otherwise, or whatever it might be that comes along, and things come along all the time in trading, I'm going to stick with that view and trade accordingly. It's always good to have a long-term view or perspective. Even if you're a day trader or a swing trader, try to draw defined boundaries on your chart, which can be seen. They're there. They're real. Highs and lows, basically. It's different for commodities and Forex and stocks. They all trade differently because commodities, generally, we're trying to buy low and sell high. Currencies, same sort of thing, although there are trends that emerge in currencies, but not as frequently, a lot of range trading currencies, whereas stocks generally tend to move up in price, and Bitcoin tends to move up, gold tends to move up, and so we're looking generally long, but also bearing in mind that within those moves there will be ranges. Each commodity, each instrument trades a little bit differently. That's what we're trying to do. TLT. All right, let's have a look. Where are we? I've got it. The chart. Look, I don't have TLT on here. This is the US 10-year yield. Let's have a look, and that's at TVC. Let's have a look at TLT. I don't know which one. This is the 20. iShares 20-year Treasury bond ETF. Let's have a look. If you would do the 10 or the 20. Yeah. Generally, I think we get, I don't know. It's very generally. I think we're probably going to be heading up on this. Just going to draw one or two trend lines in here. Yeah, if anything, we've actually broken out already. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, so we basically, just from a very quick glance, we're running out of time because I've got to go in about 8 minutes now. We've come up underneath the trend line, very, very, very long-term trend line. Not many touches though until we got to here, and then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, broke through it, came back, tested from the top, exactly what we want to see. And in pre-market, we're just about here. We're above all the moving averages as well, except for the 20, but we're above the 50, 200, and 100. We've broken out through this trend line. We've back tested it. We've bounced off it successfully. We've broken through all those moving averages. We're back testing the top of the moving averages. This looks like a good place to go long to me. It's not one of the instruments I trade, but it looks pretty good. I like it. Bear in mind though, however, just going back to this, if we do, and if you do buy at this level, you're going to have to allow for a retest of this trend line down below us at 89, 30, 20. Let's say 20, another 8 and 2 number. So we're now at 92.80. You're going to have to, so it's, well, okay, 92.80, 89.30. So yeah, it's not much of a pullback. It is significant, but it's not massive. So you're going to have to allow, and there's a swing low here. So I think you can draw on this chart, and I don't use this very often, trade positions. I'll try and draw you something that could work. A long position. All right, so if we go long, where we are, there we go. And what we want to do is put the stop loss beneath this swing low right here. So it's the trend line top, and it's also this swing low, and we want the stop loss beneath that, or your hedge, depending on what you're doing. And now the targets for this are pretty decent because we've got a long way up to go. And I'm not sure, I mean, you know, first of all, we could, if this is going to move up meaningfully, we should get to at least 108. If it just sort of stutters up, gets to the underside of these previous lows and that swing high, about 100.6. I'm going to draw a line in across there so that you can see why this might cause some problems right there. Okay, so it's these previous swing lows all along here, and it's that swing high. So it's a very significant swing level, and we'll have to set that as our initial target. The second target will be up here at 108-ish. So let's go back to this block and put this up here at 100. Let's call it 100 on the nose. I can't do that. Anyway, I'm calling it 100, and that gives us a decent risk-reward ratio of 2.3. Again, not something that I often look at myself, because sometimes my risk-reward ratios are in the opposite way around. I'm aiming for 10 pips and I'm risking 100. There are certain trading scenarios where that's required and warranted. In this case, we've got a positive risk-reward ratio, or reward risk of over 2, so that's good. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say on that, really. At the risk of rambling on and on and on. Hang on. Yeah, and we can look at it from a different perspective by looking at the 10-year yield. I know this is the 10, not the 20, but there we are underneath this red line. Actually, a little bit similar to what we just saw on the other chart. We're underneath this red line. We've tested it from underneath. It's also where the 20-period moving averages, and look at all these moving averages stacked above us. We've tested it from underneath, and I think this is going to move down. We're at 4.23 now. The next target will be 4.04, bottom of the channel. We're at the channel center line currently, and then eventually all the way back down to into the 3s. So if this moves down, TLT should move up. So generally, I think these are both good trades. Yes, I'm not taking them myself because I'm involved elsewhere, and I'm not willing to add the extra risk at the moment. But if there are opportunities and I lighten up on some of the other trades later on, I'll then have a look at TLT and the US 10-year. Right, we're still going good on corn, moving up nice and sharply, whereas cotton, our other long trade, is moving slightly down. Coffee moving slightly down. I think it's going to move down. Most people think it's going up. And cocoa just moving up as well. Okay. Wow. Elgato Stream Deck Mark II Studio Controller. Wow. That's amazing. I'm going to have a look at it right now, the Boring Channel. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. N1KZY, big question is, could you do a video comparing what Trump did to the markets on first term as president and what could happen on this term? Yeah, so I could do a video on that actually. We don't know if Trump's going to be re-elected. He'll be the second, in US history, if he is elected, to be elected twice with a gap in between the two terms. Can't remember who the first one was. Was it Roosevelt? Someone will know. Just let me know in the chat. But if he does, so it'll be a pretty rare event if it does happen. So keep that in mind. It's important. Things that are rare should be considered to be rare. But if he is elected and he does the same as last time, which he may also not do, he may change his strategy on the economy. And he's got more intelligent advisors on his side, on each side, in fact. He's got J.D. Vance, and he's got, whether you like him or not, he's very clever and he's smart with money. Not saying Trump isn't, but he's a different approach to things. And then we've got Vivek Ramaswamy, who's also very, very smart and is also good with money. And we know that the US national debt and printing money is going to cause an eventual ultimate problem. I honestly do think that the Republicans, and I'm not going to talk politics and I don't want to mention anything about politics, but I do honestly think that the Republicans have had a change of some sort, a shift, a change of party zeitgeist, if you will, and that we might see a more responsible fiscal approach to the coming period during which Trump rules, if he does. Once again, it's a very rare event if it does happen. I'm not saying it won't. If he does print money and spend and drill, and he could bring energy costs down, but he will probably print money in the process and increase the national debt and decrease the value of the dollar in the long run, or just at least add to the inexorable decline of fiat currencies, particularly the dollar. So yeah, it could all be very different. He may or may not get elected, but if he does, it may be completely different to previous terms now that he's got some young but sensible economists, really, as part of his team. Not when I say economists, I mean people who understand money and the economy. I don't mean actual economists. So that's what I think. So I think it's all a bit imponderable at the moment, N1KZY. I think it's difficult to understand what he may or may not do, and I don't think it's even worth speculating about until we find out what's going to happen in the coming election, and more urgently and pressingly, what's going to happen with Kamala and Joe Biden and the Democrats, and what are they going to produce, bring out, haul out. It's not going to be the Walking Dead anymore, but it'll be someone younger and more lively, and who may pose a serious threat to Trump. I don't know. Even Kamala Harris might do that, although that seems unlikely. Trump is not smart with money. His financial performance bears that out. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So I think he's got some more intelligent people around him when it comes to the bigger picture and the economy, the future. And with a bit of luck, they'll temper his spending, and also we don't want to go full guns ballistic on drilling and pumping carbon dioxide and methane into the air. We do want to try and mitigate that and move away from it. So although I do support a bit of drilling of natural gas and oil and other forms of fossil fuel energy, I would also like to see a move towards more sustainable energy and less damaging fuels. We are going to need more and more fuel, more and more electricity. There's no doubt about that. Modern civilization needs huge amounts of energy to sustain it, to keep up the standards that we're used to live in the means and the structures and the cities and the buildings and the vehicles and the computers and the lights and the TVs and everything that we use, the microwaves and the fridges and the kettles. We are using more and more energy all the time. It's not going to be provided by green energy in entirety. I think we can move towards green and nuclear, hydrogen forms of energy, also fossil fuel. Hydrogen is not a fossil fuel that can be extracted from fossil fuels. So I think we're moving in that direction. We don't want to be just, pumping out filth into the atmosphere ad nauseum. We want to see something sensible. And I think the Trump's advisors will be more sensible on the environment too. So I don't think all is lost for those Democrats or Trump haters or those who are very worried about the next 4 years. A lot of panic around. I don't have to panic. I don't live in America, and but it affects the rest of the world. Of course it does. So, but I'm generally slightly optimistic rather than pessimistic. Yeah, Trump decides on ratings and nothing else. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I see, obviously you're not a Trump fan, and many here aren't either. I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not an American. I'm not a Biden or a Trump fan. But there are certain things in this world that I think are important to humanity. And I think we've seen a lot of messy and unpleasant stuff going on in the US for too long. And that's what upsets me more than anything else. Why there's a great film called Mars Attacks with Jack Nicholson in it. Is it Nicholson or Nicholas? Nicholas is the golfer. Where he says this famous line to the Martians: "Why can't we all just get along?" And that's the way most of us, I think, just feel about things. Anyway, enough of all that. Okay, folks, it's been a long session, hour and a half. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got some benefit from it. I will see you in the next live stream. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. We're at 9,040 or something now. So we surged through 9,000. I really appreciate it. And my deal with you was that I'll do more frequent live streams and do a better job generally and make a better product for my followers. So I'm intending to do that. And in response to your very heartwarming and happy subscription to the channel. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to have one quick look through the charts before I go and see where we are. Let's start with currencies. Euro moving down. Dollar index just moving up slightly. Not much on the dollar yen. Euro yen moving down sharply again. So we're short on this one, and that one's doing the best out of these two pairs because we've broken down through support. Dollar yen still hasn't done that yet. And then stocks, well, these markets aren't open yet, open in half an hour's time. No movement on NASDAQ, S&P, Apple. Actually, no movement on any of these at all. Nothing. And then gold, yeah, looking pretty good. I'm not saying that gold might not actually have another go to the downside, but as long as we hold above these lows here and this 100-period moving average, there's a good chance that gold could actually move up really strongly. And we could move right up to 2,500 immediately. But once we get to 2,520 or thereabouts, I'll be looking to exit those longs. Bitcoin, we talked about in detail. NatGas coming back down to that support level. Bit of a spike in this last few minutes or last second. Let's have a look at that on the 15-minute chart. Yeah, look at that. Big spike down while we were talking just a minute ago. There we go. This is what we're looking for, folks. We want to see a reaction in this level here. Look how that candle just touched the 200. Well, I'm exaggerating. We got to 2168 and the 200 moving average is at 2166. Okay, so 0.4 of a penny away from the 200 and we bounced off there sharply. We're actually now back outside the red block already on this 15-minute chart. This is what we're looking for, a big reversal candle. There's 1 more hour to go before the 4-hour candle completes, so we'll look for reversal there as well. As you can see on the 4-hour, it's showing no evidence of a reversal just yet, but we're seeing it creeping in on the 15-minute. All right, we're just Rebel TV or Rebel TY. There's a Rebel TV. Yeah, so I've just covered. I didn't see your comment. I'm sorry about that, but I've just covered exactly what we just talked about. Okay, folks, have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next live stream, maybe tomorrow, but maybe the next day. We'll see how things go. Probably on Thursday, actually, because we can maybe time it for the natural gas storage report. That's on